have insurance. Your doctor says you need treatment. You assume the next step is pretty simple. The insurance company reviews the case and makes a decision. But at Cigna in 2022, more than 300,000 claims were denied in just 2 months. And the average review time? 1.2 seconds. How do you review a medical decision in 1.2 seconds? So what exactly were they reviewing in those 1.2 seconds? And the question gets even harder to ignore when you look at what Americans are paying for insurance. In 2025, the average employer-sponsored family plan costs nearly $27,000 a year. Nearly $27,000. And a denial can still be processed in a matter of seconds. Insurance does not work like this. Your doctor asks for something and the company simply pays. When treatment gets expensive, the insurer usually checks first. They want to know, is the treatment necessary? Does it meet the rules? Does the plan actually have to cover it? That sounds reasonable. Hospitals can bill incorrectly. A test can get billed twice. Fraud exists too. But here is the question. What happens when more and more of that review gets handed to software? And that is exactly why insurers like automation. Software can scan huge batches of claims in a very short time and automatically flag cases that do not match the rules. Faster, cheaper, simpler. But there is a problem. If the machine has already done most of the evaluation before a doctor ever sees the file, how much is the doctor really deciding? Think of it this way. Before the case reaches the doctor, PXDX has already scanned it, compared it with Cigna's rules, and flagged whatever does not match. Then those cases can be grouped into batches. The doctor is no longer starting with one patient. The doctor is starting with a list the software has already filtered. And that is the part worth noticing. On paper, a doctor is still behind the decision. But if the software has already filtered the case and made a recommendation, how much review is the doctor really doing? That question becomes harder to dismiss when federal investigators find that some denied requests actually still met Medicare's coverage rules. In 2022, the HHS Office of Inspector General reviewed a sample of denied Medicare Advantage prior authorization requests. It found that 13% of them actually met Medicare coverage rules. Wait. So this is not just a system catching obviously bad claims. It can also block requests that should have qualified for coverage. From here, the story is no longer just about whether software can read a medical chart. It is about software starting to influence how long you get care. Look at care after a hospital stay, like rehabilitation or a skilled nursing facility. A system can look at data from large numbers of earlier patients and estimate how many days you should need to recover. That sounds efficient, but you are not an average. Say the system predicts that a patient should need about 10 days to recover, but on day 10, that person still cannot walk safely. The doctor can see that. The software sees something else. The actual recovery has gone past the prediction, and that can get the case flagged for another review. Then another piece stops fitting. In a 2024 Senate investigation, United Healthcare's denial rate for post-acute care was reported at about 3 times its overall denial rate. For Humana, it was more than 16 times higher. That does not prove the cause by itself, but it raises a question that is hard to avoid. Why are denials so heavily concentrated in expensive care after a hospital stay? And this is the real issue. Not every software-assisted denial is wrong, but the system is deeply uneven. Saying no can take seconds. Turning that no into a yes can take hours of phone calls, medical records, and appeals. That is a very different game. One side can process thousands of cases with software. On the other side is a sick patient and a doctor who is already overloaded. That is the prior authorization problem in a nutshell. The system can deny at scale, but fixing one decision still has to happen, one case at a time. From this angle, the mechanism starts to look pretty clear. Software reviews the case first and compares it with internal rules or an expected benchmark. If something does not match, the case gets flagged. Those flagged cases can then be grouped together so reviewers can process them very quickly. Critics call this batch denials and rubber stamping. Reviewing whole groups of cases and, in some situations, mostly confirming what the system has already selected. And once the case gets flagged, the burden changes sides. Now, the patient and the doctor have to explain why this specific case really needs the treatment and why it should not be handled like the average. That is algorithmic gatekeeping. The algorithm may not make the final decision, but it can decide who gets stopped first and who has to start proving that their care should be covered. And from a business standpoint, the logic is easy to see. Having doctors read every single case is slow and expensive. Software can filter thousands of cases at once, much faster and at a much lower cost. And the more expensive the care, the more money there is to save if that cost gets cut. That is why post-acute care became an important focus of the Senate investigation. None of this proves that every insurer deliberately built these systems to deny valid care. Insurers say these tools make reviews more consistent, catch errors, and pay clean claims faster. That explanation has to be taken seriously. But it does not erase what investigators found. Unusual denial patterns are still there. Decisions still get reconsidered, and patients can still end up waiting while their doctors try to fix those decisions. So the original belief is not completely wrong. Insurance can still protect you from enormous medical bills. And reviewing treatment can reduce mistakes and waste. What we usually do not see is this. The treating doctor is not the only person deciding what counts as medically necessary. And that is easy to miss. Your doctor can say you need treatment, but before the insurer pays, that decision still has to pass through the insurer's own review system. So the card in your wallet does not automatically mean every benefit written into the plan reaches you the moment you need it. There is still one more question. Will the system approve the payment? So the answer starts to become clear. Automation lets insurers control costs at a scale humans cannot match as quickly. A machine can filter huge numbers of cases in a very short time. But when the machine gets it wrong, the system does not automatically go back and fix it. A person has to do that. And that person is often the patient or the doctor. And that is the final trade-off. The speed sits on the insurer's side. The work of correcting mistakes sits with patients and doctors. So 1.2 seconds does not mean a human being was understood in 1.2 seconds. It means the decision was prepared before the doctor got there. The doctor showed up at the end to confirm it. And now those systems are being pulled further into the legal spotlight. In the Lock-in case, a court allowed the plaintiffs to seek more discovery about how NH-Predict was developed. So the question is no longer whether AI is part of health insurance. It already is. The question is, when AI makes the system faster, who pays the price when the system gets a person wrong?